And then sometimes now somebody will refer to him as my ex-husband, and it's like it doesn't. It's like I cringe. It's like ugh, that's yeah. So I appreciate that. Technically, he was my husband, but there was nothing normal about that. After I was there for a while, this thing happened where this woman approached me and wanted to know what I'd done because she noticed that. She said, everybody leaves you alone. You must have done something really badass. And so I was in a dorm of there were up to 50 women in the dorm at the same time. So I was never in a cell. So there's a lot to observe. And she just thought that I must have done something really horrendous, that everybody kind of left me alone. Nobody was giving me a hard time. And I just thought that was kind of hilarious because, clearly I hadn't murdered a bunch of people or whatnot. I just had I think I had a very kind of zen way about being there that after a while, nobody gave me a hard time. And
yeah, it's strange. Like I can't relate because I haven't been in prison, but you do notice how, like, when you look at COVID, one day everyone was going about their lives and the next day everyone said stay inside, and everyone did. And so people adapted so fast. And I got to think it's probably a pretty similar thing. Like you realize, oh, all right, I got to go in here. I got X amount of time to do. Here we go. And then that just becomes your reality.
I had exactly that thought when I was there, that just how adaptable we are. All of a sudden your life is completely different. And so, you just adjust to the new normal of where you are.
Yeah. Now, we got connected through Sarah Edmondson, who's going to be coming on my podcast. She was going to come on earlier this summer, and then we had a scheduling conflict. So I'm excited to do that one. But obviously, she could relate to some of the things you went through as well because of her own story. So we'll save that for Sarah's podcast. But there was a documentary on Netflix. I guess this was a few years ago now. It came out?
Yeah, it came out 2022.
Okay. It's called Bad Vegan, and it covers this whole story. And we'll go through it today, but there's a lot going on here because there's like a crime at the end that ends up being prosecuted in court. You get caught up in that and do some prison time, but it was your husband. And I almost want to call him like technical husband because it's a strange.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that because every time people referred to him as my husband, even during that time, when somebody would refer to him as my husband or he would refer to me as his wife, I always sort of cringed. And then sometimes now somebody will refer to him as my ex-husband, and it's like it doesn't. It's like I cringe. It's like ugh, that's yeah. So I appreciate that. Technically, he was my husband, but there was nothing normal about that.
You are definitely psychologically fascinating to me because there's a lot going on from your entire life and like how it got here. That's why I was curious to do this because. I like looking at stories that are like 12-dimensional.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I find the psychological side of it really fascinating. And that was something that was completely left out of Bad Vegan is any exploration of that. And the reason why Sarah Edmondson and I relate is she's known for having gone through the NXIVM cult situation and being one of the whistleblowers on that. And the experience that she and other people that Mark Vicente is somebody that also went through that. And I relate to them and they relate to me because my experience on so many levels was identical to being in a cult. It's just that it was one-on-one versus being in a group. But so many things about that guy, Keith Raniere, who was sentenced to, I think, 125 years.
The NXIVM cult leader.
He's locked away. So many things about him and other people, other cult leaders. And I don't know if you're familiar with the story of the Sarah Lawrence students and this guy named Larry Ray. It's fascinating.
Think so. What happened there?
There's a docuseries on Hulu called, I'm forgetting the name of it.
We can look it up. Sarah Lawrence Hulu docuseries.
Yeah, it's like about to pop out of my brain. Okay. But anyway, the guy in that, he does what he does to a small group of students. And his psychology, I think, is very similar to the guy in my story. Stolen youth. Yeah, perfect. And so it's a very, very, very similar dynamic. as what happened with me. It's just with me, there was one of me, or I guess this guy does it kind of one person at a time.
Yes.
Versus a group of people.
Yeah, there were aspects of him that Matt Cox in his old days, pre-reform days, was coming to mind. And then I would say, referring to your ex-husband, but I would also say there was even an added element there, just with like how he would, I mean, we'll get into it, but how he would tie in like promises that could never be kept, that, you know, like he was a god and he was not
it got really weird. And over time, it got weirder and weirder, and sort of a, you know, as if he had these special powers. And the more confused I got, you know, the easier it became for him to mess with my head.
Yeah. All right, so we'll go through it. And I want to start at the beginning. I kind of want to go through some of your childhood and really do it the chronological way. But I will say I listened to the whole documentary, and you and I were talking right before. I understand why there's some things that you felt weren't covered, and we can get into that and how you felt that was going to be covered or not covered. But I can understand how there were some things that you wish were in there or were stated a different way. And I also know you're at the middle of the story, so it's extremely personal to you. It involves reputation and stuff like that. So I can imagine how much like on pins and needles I would be as well. What I will say is that I don't think it made you look as bad as you seem to think. I actually felt like, you know, if I were an outsider looking at this, I'm like, if I were grading it, they probably got 80% of the stuff in there that was really important, that like the average person, if they're thinking about it, could be like, oh, something's wrong here. Like this is off. And that was probably the most important takeaway. But let's start with your childhood and everything. Where did you grow up?
Outside of Boston, a suburb, Newton, Massachusetts.
Siblings, mom and dad together?
Older sister, parents divorced when I was 10, I think.
It's a tough age.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I always would forget. Like I wouldn't remember how old I was. But it wasn't messy. I don't have any memories of them fighting or whatnot. It was just one of those things where, you know, they got divorced for whatever reason, and my father always lived nearby. So I was able to, my sister and I saw him periodically, and then both my parents remarried pretty quickly. So, my mom remarried a much older guy who had 6 kids already. They were all older. So that was a bit chaotic. That definitely, I think, had an impact in that, you know, I was the youngest of everybody, and there was a lot of changes. And their mother had a stroke, and then it took 6 months, and she passed away. Well, you know, he and my mother were together, and so they sort of partially moved into my house, and there was all this chaos. And so there, you know, and then just going later on in my junior high and high school years, there wasn't a lot of supervision and a lot of older siblings. So I had a pretty independent high school.
Yeah, that's different. I haven't heard one like that in a while. So how much older are we talking? The other 6 kids, like 10 years?
The youngest one was a year and a half older than me.
Okay.
And then the rest of them were all older. So when I first met them, some of them were already in college, graduating from college.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.